Welcome to Liesel's Artistic Studio. I hope you're ready to paint something fun and different today because I am going to teach you step by step how to paint this Christmas candle with a luminous and glowing feel. So let's get started and grab a few supplies. First, we need watercolor paper, some paints, some water, a pencil, and some brushes. I've got two brushes I'll be using today, a large number 5 grabby brush for the background wash, and a smaller number 2 grabby for more of the detail work. Now, before we get to painting, I've quickly penciled an outline sketch on my paper here. The good news is that it is not too complicated today, and although I definitely recommend that you draw this lightly with a pencil, I'm actually going to go over this sketch with you using a thin Sharpie marker just so that the lines are clearly visible for you to see. So to start out, let's draw some bunches of berries here at the bottom of the page. Now you can really do as many as you like and as big or as small as you like. Mine are going to be a little bit larger in size today. Now these of course are just simple circles that I also have drawn a highlight area onto as well. And keep in mind that you do want to try to have the highlights drawn in approximately the same location for each berry. All right, now that I've got a good group of berries that sort of spreads across the bottom of the page, I'm going to come in here and add a few lines for some small branches that can sort of connect some of these together. Now I'll draw in a few jaggedy holly leaves that can sort of be in, around, and behind the berries. And as a quick side note, if you would rather just skip this step of drawing the outline yourself, I do have this outline available on my Etsy shop for sale. I'll put a link to that in the description of this video, along with a list and links of all of the supplies I'll be using today. Also, there is only 1 week left for my Etsy shop sales. Everything in my shop is 20% off, so make sure you check it out and order any outlines that you would like before the sale is over. All right, now let's just add in a horizontal line that can represent the table that the candle is sitting on or something like that for part of this background area. Now I am going to use a ruler, but you can feel free to freehand this if you'd rather. And now let's draw the candle, which is the main feature of this piece today, stemming out from the holly and the berries. Now, you can make your candle any height or width that you like. I'm trying to make it tall enough so that it can sort of fill out the page. Then down here at the bottom, I'll draw the base of the candle poking out from among the berries. And for the top of the candle, I will draw a curved line to connect the two sides of the candle together, and then sort of a soft triangular shape for the tip of the candle with a wick at its peak. Then we'll add the flame here onto the wick, and you can draw it straight if you would rather, but I kind of like mine at a bit of an angle. It just adds a little bit of movement and interest to our picture, almost like a slight breeze has just blown past. Then back down here at the bottom of the page, I'll sketch in kind of a rough outline for the shadow area, and that's really it for this drawing. Now let's tape our watercolor paper down with a little bit of artist tape. We will be using a good amount of water for the background today, and this is going to help a little bit with the paper buckling and warping, and it's also going to leave us a nice white border around the painting as well. All right, let's start with painting the background first. I want the background to be a nice dark contrast compared to the candle. This is really going to make the candle pop and stand out, which is going to help with our glowing effect. So here I've got some ivory black, as well as Paynes gray and some burnt umber. Then I'll use this large brush and paint the entire background with water first, stopping at the horizontal table line and going around any leaves and berries that are poking out, as well as going around the candle and the candle flame. Now I'll start dropping these colors into my background, working from light colors to dark. So I'll start by putting a little bit of this burnt umber onto each side of my wet background first. Then I'll take the Paynes gray and blend that into mostly the edges of the burnt umber, but I am going to let them mix together a little bit. Now I'll add in this darkest ivory black color, filling in any of the leftover spaces. You'll notice that as I go here, I'm really focusing this darkest color in the center of the picture, especially around the candle and the flame. And again, this is just going to really help it stand out. Now you'll notice also that I didn't paint super closely to the leaves down here yet. This is because I was really trying to work quickly, getting all the background colors in here while everything was still wet so they could blend more smoothly. But now that those colors are in, I can switch over to my smaller brush and finalize and crisp up these lines right down here around the leaves. All right, while we let our background finish drying completely, let's paint in the shadows down at the bottom of the painting. So here I've got a little bit of ultramarine blue, which I'll just mix into whatever was left of the Paynes gray here on my tray, and then we'll pull out some dioxazine purple as well. Now down here in the shadow area, I'll wet the section down with water first, again using the larger brush, then I'll start painting in the colors while it is still wet. So first I'll use some of this burnt umber, which is now a little bit watered down, but that's okay. I don't want it to be too dark. I've got this brown sort of on this bottom edge here, and then I'll add in some of the ultramarine blue right next to that so the colors mix just a little. Then here at the top part of the shadow, I'll add in the purple. And because I think this shadow needs to be a little darker here right at the base of the candle, I think I'll go ahead and throw in a little bit of ivory black too. Then I'll just let those colors settle and blend together and let it dry. All right, let's switch over to this smaller brush now and move on to our candle next. I'm going to start with the flame. And here I'm going to show you one of the first tricks to making this flame appear like it's really glowing and on fire. So now that the background is dry, I'm actually going to wet down a tiny curved section of this paint right next to the flame, and then I'll use my paper towel and lift and wipe a small section of this black off of the paper. It might take you 2 or 3 tries to get some of that color removed, and then you can do the same thing to the other side. This method is really going to create a nice soft edge for the next part, and this is the reason why I've chosen to lift out the color instead of paint around it at the beginning. Now let's mix a little bit of cadmium orange and gamboge together for a rich yellow orange, and we'll paint that color in the space where we just lifted out some of that black. I'll use that same yellow-orange and paint just the very tip of the flame as well as this circle at the bottom of the flame. Now I'll take a touch of some watered down or lighter value gamboge and paint that just right around the outside edge of that orange circle. And lastly, to really emphasize this look, you can add just a touch of pure cadmium orange right at the base of the circle. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now moving on to the candle itself. I'm going to freshen up my gamboge, the cadmium orange mixed with the gamboge, and then I'll mix a little cadmium orange with some cadmium red. Now using the larger brush once again, I'll paint the base part of this candle with water first. We'll finish off the triangle top in just a few minutes. Then while this is still wet, we'll start placing in our colors starting at the top of the candle and working our way down, and from light colors to dark. So first I'll paint the pure gamboge yellow here in this top corner and maybe a little bit along the very top edge. Then we'll move downward and add in some of the yellow-orange next, letting the colors blend where they touch. Then as we move down a little more, we'll add in a touch of the red-orange. And from here on down, I'm really trying to keep these colors only on this right side, and we'll try to leave the left side of the candle as white as we can. Now we're actually going to move to some of these cooler colors. So let's put a little purple here next to and blending in with the red-orange. Then moving down to more of the base of the candle, I'll use a mixture of the purple and even the ultramarine blue and paint the rest of the candle in and around the berries. If you have found the tips and techniques helpful that I've been sharing with you today, please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on more useful tips every week. Now to finish off this triangular top, let's again paint it with water first, and I've actually switched over to the smaller brush now. And then I'll place some light or watered down gamboge here along the top edges and maybe down just about halfway. Then I'll add in just a hint or a highlight of some of this yellow-orange on this right side edge. All right, we're getting close to being done here. Let's get some greens mixed up and we'll paint those holly leaves next. I'm going to use a yellow-green for the base color of each leaf. So let's take some gamboge and mix it with some sap green. Then we'll use some hooker's green for the shadow areas. So first I'll go ahead and paint the entire leaf with this yellow-green. And then while it is still wet, I'll add in some drops of hooker's green for a couple of shadow spots. And then in just a minute, I'll use some pure gamboge and add in a little bit of yellow highlighted areas on the leaf as well. Now I'll go ahead and paint all these leaves in a similar way. But as I got going, I did feel like I needed an even darker green in here. So I'm actually going to mix up some sap green with some ivory black that I'll be adding in here and there as well. All right, before moving on to my berries, I'm going to switch out my water here so I can keep the red colors nice and vibrant. So here on my tray, I will also be adding some cadmium red as well as some alizarin crimson mixed with just a touch of ivory black. Now, as I paint these berries, and if you watched my tutorial from last week, I'll be using the exact same method today. So I'm going to paint an underlayer of cadmium orange onto the berry first, going around the highlight. Then I'll add in the cadmium red right on the top of that wet orange that covers almost the entire berry except a small section that's opposite of the highlight for an orange reflected light. And lastly, I'll add in some of the dark alizarin crimson along the bottom edge, as well as maybe just a spot in between the white highlight and the orange reflected light. If you're finding this technique a little bit tricky to paint, you can just paint the berries a cadmium red without any other colors. This method just makes them vibrant, shiny, and more realistic. Now I'll just go ahead and paint the rest of the berries in the same way. All right, we just have a few tiny little details to add and we can call this painting done. So first, let's take some black and paint on the wick of the candle going up into the little flame. Now I'll mix a little bit of burnt umber into the black for a nice dark brown, and then I'll paint on some of these small stem lines. And lastly, I'll paint in a few small thin vein lines on the holly leaves using some hooker's green. And now for my favorite part, taking off the tape to see the finished product. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you had some fun and maybe even learned something new. If you did enjoy this tutorial, please consider subscribing to my channel so I can continue to help you discover your artistic side.